First we will light our candle. Once upon a time, when was it? When was it truly not? There was a farmer who had 3 sons. Now, when this farmer was laying there dying, he called his 3 sons into his deathbed. And he said, "My dear sons, I want you to divide up the land equally after I'm gone, and whatever you grow, that is what you must take to market and sell." And so his sons agreed to this, but after he was gone, the 2 oldest brothers connived to get the 2 best parcels of land, and they left the worst third of the land for their youngest brother. And this was just bare ground, rocky soil with scrub and thistles. And though the youngest brother got up early in the morning and worked as hard as he could all day, he was not able to coax anything to grow out of that ground. Meanwhile, the 2 older brothers were growing and harvesting all their plants, and it was time for them to take it to the market. So they got their wagons and loaded them up and kind of laughed at their youngest brother and went on without him. So the youngest brother sat there in dismay until he remembered what his father had told them. Whatever you grow, that is what you must take to market and sell. So he decided he would go to market as well. So when he got there, he set up a booth right next to his brothers, and they were kind of surprised at his presence. And then they were really surprised when he opened his mouth and began to shout, "Nothing for sale! I have nothing for sale! Come and get your nothing here!" And soon the people who had come to the market were gathering round him, laughing at him. And the 2 brothers were like, couldn't you move somewhere else? They were getting embarrassed. But the youngest brother just went on all the louder, "Nothing for sale! I have nothing for sale! Come and get your nothing here!" Until quite a large crowd had gathered around his booth. Well, there was someone else at the market that day. It was the king. He had come looking for a cure for his daughter, for his daughter was very ill, and he had spent much money on the best physicians in the land, and he had tried all their cures, but nothing worked. In fact, if anything, his daughter was getting worse. And so the king had determined that he would go out. This was not a job for one of his courtiers. He would go out and find a cure himself. And he brought with him a large bag of money. So when he got to the market and he saw this crowd around one particular merchant, he was rather curious. And so he walked up to the merchant's booth, and of course, everyone parted to let him through. And he got up to the young man and he said, "What is it you are selling?" The young man looked at him. He was afraid to open his mouth. He didn't know what kind of punishment he might get, but he finally decided just to tell the truth. And he said, "I have nothing for sale." And the king looked in his face, and he saw something there that gave him hope. Or rather, I should say, it was what he didn't see there. And so the king said, "Well, I have tried a lot of somethings, and none of them have worked. And so I will try your nothing." And he handed over his bag of gold to the young merchant. Now, this was more gold than this young man would see in 100 lifetimes, and his brother's eyes were bugging out. But the king felt a weight lift from his heart as soon as he handed him that bag of gold. He felt lighter than he had ever felt before. And so the king walked away from the market, and the sun had just gone down. So he got home the next morning back to his palace, and as soon as he came in, his servants ran to him and said, "Your Majesty!" And just then the king saw his daughter come in through the doorway, and she said, "Father, I am well." And her father, the king, said, "When did this happen?" And she said, "Yesterday, just as the sun was going down, I felt my illness leave me, and I felt healthier than I ever have before." And then her father knew that this was exactly when he had handed the bag of gold over to the young merchant. Thanks for listening.